Welcome everyone to Dosh Dialogues series, your go-to for all things finance. I'm Siddharth. You can call me Sid, your host, and joining me is Varun Agarwal, the founder and the brains behind Know Your Dosh. We're here to demystify money matters and empower your financial journey. Get ready for a few insightful discussions, practical tips, and a whole lot of financial wisdom. Let's dive in. But before we dive into a couple of questions, I'd like for Varun to take a couple of minutes to just introduce himself and also the inspiration behind Know Your Dosh. I think that'll be a good way to kick off the conversation. Over to you, Varun.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Sid. Hello, everyone. I'm the founder and CEO of Know Your Dosh, and the inspiration came from a personal life experience. So where, I lost my dad when I was 14, and in my family, my mom wasn't like involved in day-to-day household finances. My brother and my sister were quite young as well, so like all of us had a very little idea about household finances because my dad used to manage all those things. And yeah, after he was gone, then we had a very tough time to get pieces together to understand where the things are, where the bank accounts are, and where we are owed money, where we people owe us money. So it took us a very, very long time to get pieces together, and still we struggled a lot as well. And then another incident happened over here in London when I lost my very close friend of mine one evening, one playing badminton. And it all of a sudden, like absolutely, we had no idea, like whom to contact, which banks he dealt with. So yeah, so that these two things, were back of my mind for a very long time. I'm a hardcore techie, like I've got more than 20 years experience in tech industry. So I thought like let me create a solution using my tech background and this um, my personal interest towards this problem to solve it. And hence Know Your Dosh was born. So our aim is that like no other family has to go through what we went through. And yeah, so we have created this platform for you to take advantage, and then yes, like to be at peace for your family.
Absolutely. Thanks for Varun. Thanks, Varun, for sharing that story, albeit sad. Good things come from bad experiences as well, and you're learning. You're trying to make sure that other people don't have to go through that tough times. There is obviously the emotional trauma of losing people. It could be temporary, it could be permanent. People might be stuck because the main breadwinner is, hospitalized, may not be as bad as it can be, but it could be the other way around where, like yourself, you may have lost that family member and they're still struggling, right? So, not to deal with two different problems, at least you can deal with the emotional issues, and this one is taken care of. At least the financial issues are taken care of thanks to a platform like Know Your Dosh. Great. Thanks, Varun. So let's dive into a couple of, we've got about 4 to 5 questions and we quickly, dive into them. The intent of these content pieces are not to be long form, they're short form, so we keep it quick and candid as well. So here are a few questions that people have actually asked us. How does one create a household budget and why is it not done very often in families?
So creating household budget is not that tough. But here's the kicker. It is easy to create, but then to stick to it. Like it needs a lot of like discipline and a habit to keep maintaining that. So yes, the initial task seems quite big as well, like where to start, but it's literally like just like 3 steps. Like first, just maybe on an Excel or a piece of paper or like any other like wherever you feel comfortable, like note down all your income sources, your family income sources, right? The second is like note down all your expenses, right? Like go through your statements, bank statements, or your cash like expenses, whatever the expenses are, like put those down and categorize them as well. That is very important. That will help you, and I'll explain later like why it's necessary. And then finally, you just subtract like your total income with total expenses, and that gives you your total disposable income, right? But that is your total disposable income. And then you need to keep aside something for rainy day as well. So which is I normally call it as an emergency fund. And as I said before, like sticking to this part is more tough than to create as well. So it takes a discipline as well. So but once you get like used to it, it becomes just like a routine like activity, like any other like daily chores. So yeah, but you will get like maximum, like you will see the maximum amazing benefits of it later on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Varun. Yeah. So like you mentioned, the core is it's easy to plan, but tough to keep up with the plan and continue the discipline of it. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me from that answer. The next question is how does one budget for irregular income or variable expenses?
Yes, so it is important because yes, like we do encounter a lot of like unexpected expenses like now and then, like your car breakdowns, your boiler breakdowns, or like you have to go on a holiday and then some unexpected thing came up. So yeah, those are like part of life, but like budgeting for irregular income and variable expenses like require a bit of a flexibility and some planning. So here are the things like you can do to stay prepared. So create a baseline budget first. That is very important. So once you have created using your regular income and expenses average amount, because yes, like your expenses will vary each month. Like there will be fixed expenses, there will be variable expenses. So like maybe like note down, take an average of last 6 months. That will be good idea. 6 months, maybe a year as well. Like it depends like how far you want to go, and then adjust it like needing adjust it as needed during months with higher or lower income. So during period of higher income, prioritize saving more, and so you can put like extra income into your emergency fund, which can be used when your income is less as well. And so in short, like add up your fixed expenses, estimate your variable expenses, calculate your average income, allocate your paychecks, build an emergency fund as well, which is very, very important, and adjust your budget as you go. And don't let like irregular income hurt your credit as well.
Thanks. Those were short but still deeply insightful, Varun. I mean, that's again the answer for how do I budget for an irregular income or a variable expenses. So that's sort of what we need to take from that answer, folks. The next question is, what are some of the effective methods for, and this is going to be absolutely relevant for almost everyone on the planet, I would think. Everyone's got that pet peeve, something that they actually do impulse spending on. So how does one effectively control impulsive spending? Like for instance, for me, it could be like that additional iPhone case. For someone, it could be that additional shoe or earring or whatnot. Right. So how does one account for and what are the techniques, or is there any method that one can prescribe or follow to curtail and to curb that instinct to spend impulsively?
Yes, like it's I think in today's age of like social media, like influencers and getting influenced, it's very easy to fall into that trap. And we tend to do more impulse buying, and brands are very, very good at marketing as well to entice their customers to do such kind of impulse buying. To control impulse spending, like consider implementing a 30-day rule.
Mhm.
Whenever you are tempted to make a non-essential purchase, wait for 30 days to assess whether it's absolutely necessary expense or not. Like create, or maybe, like create a budget category for miscellaneous or discretionary spending. Allocate a set amount each month. And then, yes, like you can use that cash for whatever you need, whether it's relevant or not, but you're keeping aside a certain amount for that, like, what do you call, like, yeah, like maybe like non-essential, like, or you can actually call it as a, like a impulse fund, like
Yeah,
where so that how much of total you have got for impulse buy, and you're never gonna spend anything apart from that. So yeah, so this is one of the ways you can like control your impulse buying as well, and bring some routine and it is discipline to your expenses. Because yes, like it's very easy to get out of hand. These impulse buying can be very expensive, can be very costly as well in the longer term if we don't bring discipline to our life.
absolutely. Thanks. I mean, that's actually a simple yet a profound rule that one can follow, right? And you can be an individual and follow it, and as a family, you could follow it with each other as well. I
Yes.
think if you can keep each other accountable, that the one spouse actually says that, hey, I feel like buying this. Can you keep me accountable? I shouldn't buy this for the next 30 days. I actually want to put it on a 30-day plan for myself so that I can actually not buy it for 30 days. And if after 30 days I still have the same amount of interest to buy it, then probably it's essential. Maybe we can talk about it and then buy it. So then you're laying off some unnecessary, spending. Right? So
Yes,
that's an interesting one.
absolutely.
Thanks, Varun. The next question is, how much should one allocate for different categories in sort of a budget, right? If I have a budget of, say, so many pounds or dollars or whatnot, how do I allocate percentages to different categories?
Yes, so there is no what's one set formula which will fit every household because every household works differently. Their needs and expenses are like quite different as well. And so you need to look at your historical data, like which I was mentioning about, like budgeting, right? So once you've got to prepare your budget, as in like when you've gone through your historical data, like how much you've been earning, how much you've been expending, then you can like have a good fair idea, like roughly how much you should allocate to each category, right? So like yeah, so like as a general rule, like like you can start off with to keep 30 to 40% for your housing expenses, like maybe for mortgages or your rent or like stuff like that, and then you can keep another 5 to 10% for utilities. Yes, these days like utility prices are pretty high, but again, that yeah, that is very important like to keep budgeting, like to keep those things in check, so that how much you're spending each month. And then another 5 to 10 to 15% for food expenses, depending on like how much you're eating at home, how much you're going out, and yeah, and if you're traveling by like your own like car or some like car, or if you're using public transport as well, then again you can like set aside 10 to 15% for transportation as well. But again, as I said, like you need to keep tweaking these percentages, which meets your household needs, right? And don't forget, you need to keep certain percentages for rainy day as well. So I would say that whatever your basic bare minimum needs are, like put those first, and then keep aside certain things for your rainy fund, and then go into other expenses, because that way you'll be able to create your like your future wealth like quite easily.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, I think the core thing for everyone to take away from that is there's no cookie cutter model. It's not like a one size fits all kind of a budget that you can allocate. You'd have to cut it. I mean, you'd have to sort of make it for your own household. I think that's what is most important, right? So that you can actually make sure that you're doing the best for you and your family. I think that is one of the biggest takeaways for me. Otherwise, I would end up spending about 25 to 30% on food given my choice. And one other thing that comes to mind is failing to prepare is preparing to fail. I think that's where we tend to lose out on preparing for, an eventuality, whether it's a good or positive outcome or maybe a negative outcome as well. If you don't prepare, then you're not ready for that outcome to happen or anything that happens. You just don't know how the fallouts are going to be.
Yeah.
So thanks,
So I would
Varun.
like to add one more thing over there, right? Like why the budgeting is even more important, because in today's time, like when like our like mortgages are rising, your utility bills are rising, right? One of the things is like how you're going to survive, right? So budgeting helps you with that, right? It tells you that exactly how much is coming in into the house, how much is going out, and then you can how you where you can cut like effectively. So
Mhm.
where the bare minimum, which where you can't, like say mortgage, right? You have to pay rent, you have to pay, right?
Mhm.
And council tax, right? So there are quite a few things which are bare, like you can't escape from. But yes,
Yeah.
then like yeah, like you can cut on expenses, like like instead of eating out, you can like cook more at home, right? So there are various techniques, which you can use, but like budgeting helps you to get to those like that knowledge, that information, which will help you to prepare for these things.
So thanks, Varun. These were nice, short and sweet. Thanks for those simple nuggets of information. I think a lot of these are, like you already mentioned, they're not rocket science. It's easy to plan, but the tough part is actually to stick with it and sort of make sure that you actually have the discipline to follow a budgeting plan, just like you have a meal plan or a fitness plan or something of that sort. I think money is also as important as the other factors. Sometimes, in some cases, more, sometimes lesser, but if you don't plan, you're not going to be able to be in control. You'll always be falling behind or spending unnecessarily, and then you'll find yourself in the debt almost all the time. So thanks for those quick answers. I'm pretty sure it's going to be useful and hope to have more of these conversations and unlock a lot more hidden and sometimes not so hidden mysteries as well about finances. Thanks, Varun.
No. Yeah, thanks a lot, Sid. Thanks for having me.
Cool.
Hope like it's useful for everyone.
I hope so too. So if you have any more questions, folks, and any other questions that you'd like Varun answering on these podcast series, and please like, follow, and comment so that we get to know what kind of questions you want answered, and be happy to ask those and get those answered. Thank you. Bye.
Cool. Thank you.